Hey everybody, it is Kaz Weirdness, aka Kaz Weirdness, and today we have the awesome opportunity to interview Jane Maday, art licensing artist extraordinaire, beautiful human being, and a dear friend. Welcome, Jane.
Yeah, thank you for joining me today. Do you have a tea? Do you have a drink?
I do. You said we were going to have tea.
Yeah, we should ching 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 ching. Oh wait, my camera's up here. Ching ching and like yeah, ching ching. Clink. Mmm. Oh, I put a lot of sweetener in that. And look what else I have for us to share. I have
Waffles.
I realized I had leftover. Look what I found in the closet. These are Girl Scout cookies. I don't know if you can see them, but this one says I am gutsy, and it's gutsy because I dropped it on the floor and I just shook it off.
Oh, that is brave.
I'm like, I won't touch a doorknob right now, but I'll eat a cookie off of the floor.
Yeah, exactly. I already ate my cookie, but I do have chocolate Easter eggs here if I need one.
That is good. With me today, Jane Maday. Yay! Jane is an amazing watercolor artist. She's well known for her cute, adorable animals and floral paintings, especially puppies and kitties. Would you say that's right?
I'd say birds more than anything.
And Jane is a licensing artist. Is that what you would call yourself? A licensor? Yes. A licensor?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I'm so glad that you agreed to come on and be on the Weirdness Show. And it's just great to see your face. For people that don't know what art licensing is, do you mind giving us a little brief exclamation? Do you mind giving us a little brief explanation of what it means to license your art?
Yeah, well, I guess I could. I mean, licensing art is different from commercial illustration, where in commercial illustration, the client comes to you and they tell you what you need and you do it. Mm-hmm. With licensing, you're trying to anticipate the needs that the clients would have. And so you're designing for products and then you propose. I do the painting first, and then my agent and we go to the clients and propose the products with them. So it's more of a gamble than commercial illustration, right? But it's really what's happening right now. There is a lot less commissioned illustration going on. The clients, they all like to have just this big group of stuff to look through and pick from. And,
oh, wow.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of speculative work. How do you how do you pick what you believe is going to sell? And are you ever surprised that something doesn't or does sell?
Yeah. I mean, I'll do a painting and I'll think it's the best thing I've ever done, and nobody will touch it with a barge pole. You know?
Oh my gosh.
But I mean, you look at trends, and there are certain things that are perennial every year that clients are going to want. And you get to know the markets. Like I mostly do flags, cards, and jigsaw puzzles.
Awesome.
And I know those markets very well. And I have partners, my clients are my partners, and they'll send me a list at the beginning of the year saying what they anticipate their needs will be.
Oh, wow.
But of course, they send that same list to all the other artists they work with.
So everybody's hitting with them same kind of materials, and then they get the pick of whatever they like, which is, it seems like a lot of, I mean, that's speculative work, which in a way is, it's hard, but also, you know, if you're painting something you really care about and it is landing regularly in a market, then it's a risk worth taking. Would you say that?
I mean, I don't know if you even have a choice but to take the risk, because the commercial art, those commissions, the kind of clients that I work with, they very rarely do those anymore. Licensing is what people do. And it is a risk, and it is scary, especially right now. I'm the breadwinner for the family because my husband retired.
Right.
But it's a slow process. You get to know what's going to work for you. You know, when I first started, I thought I would do mostly greeting cards because I had just left Hallmark at that time. And
Mhm.
really, greeting cards is a very small part of my program because I found out that what works best for me is flags. That's what I
Flag.
click with, and that's what my art clicked with.
So
And so
that's
you
your
have
bread
to
and
give
butter
it,
is flags.
it is. And so you have to give it a little time and a little experimentation to find what slot you fit in the best.
Right. Yeah, and now I have a bunch of questions because this is so interesting. So you had mentioned like perennial themes. Now, is that specific to the whole market or specific to what the kind of art you're producing? And do you have examples of what those perennial themes are?
Well, yeah, I mean, for the market in general, Christmas. Every year, Christmas is going to be the biggest holiday, and they're going to
Hmm.
need lots and lots of stuff.
Got it.
So you're going to want to do a lot more Christmas stuff than you do St. Patrick's Day stuff.
Oh, got it.
But the
Right.
holidays, it's going to be the same holidays every year. Easter and Christmas and Halloween are all the same. And in
Uh-huh.
those, the themes are the same. If you're going to do Halloween, well, it's going to be pumpkins and cats, and Christmas is
Maybe a witch or two.
like you've got your cute mug. And yeah.
Mhm.
And so, every year, there's always going to be a need for those things. And
Mhm.
in every day, there's also going to be the same kind of needs every year. People want stuff that's fresh and bright and uplifting. Every year they're going to want florals or
Right.
birds.
Right. So, oh, I have so many questions. So what's an average day like for you, or how do you plan out a collection and how you're going to spend each day creating artwork? How do you make those decisions?
Well, I work all day, every day.
Uh-huh.
I get up very early in the morning. I'm usually up before 6 and I'm at my table before 7. Your face just dropped when I said
No,
that, but
I'm
I'm
just
a
processing.
morning
Well,
person.
because today I rolled out of bed at 9. I mean, and I'm a workaholic too, but usually I'm finding myself like, oh, it's 2 in the morning and I should probably stop now, which I
Yeah,
think
see,
is
I
my
don't do
facial
that.
reaction.
Yeah, I'm asleep by 10. So,
Okay, okay,
I don't do that.
that's fair. But you have a drive. So every morning, do you have to make yourself work? Or are you like excited to work?
Oh, I can't wait to get to the
Oh,
table every morning.
yeah.
I'm almost always very excited, and I almost always have things that are just bursting to come out of my head. There's not enough hours in the day to get
I
them
love
all
it.
out.
Well, as you know, you found the right thing. And I can see why you being in licensing, because there's a demand for like a ton of work all the time, new
Yeah.
stuff constantly.
Yeah, that's what I would advise to people who want to get into it is you have to be very prolific. You're not really going to start seeing good money until you have 300 pieces in your portfolio, maybe 200,
Oh,
300,
wow.
before you start making decent money that
Right.
you can just live on this. um
And those are
so
and those are individual pieces within a collection. There's just so much to cover, right? But so that would be like I have 300 main images in my portfolio before I start having or collections.
well, see, it depends on what you want to do. I don't always do a collection. If I'm going to do a fabric line, then yeah, that has to be a collection with a lot of coordinating pieces. And when you talk about surface pattern design, that's what that is. That's whole collections. But a lot of the things I do are just one-off pieces. A puzzle is not going to be a whole collection.
Right, right. Or
So
a flag is typically
a
one
flag
image.
is just one. Sometimes I'll do it horizontal and vertical because they might make a rug out of it as well.
Oh, wow. So
So
having that option, like you're thinking about layout as you're creating the artwork, like yes, it could be turned this way or it could be clipped
yes,
this way.
yeah, you do have to plan that ahead of time. I don't do that many collections in a year because my attention span is short.
Sure.
I could burn out before I get done.
Right, because that's focusing on kind of one concept for a long time and producing a lot of, like icons and patterns and coordinates that.
Well, it's like when you're doing a children's book, you have to make that character go through on each page, that same character has to look the same and has to coordinate the same through
Yep.
every page of the whole book. And I
Yep.
did children's books for a long time. And it's the same as that. Every piece has to look the same and go the same.
Same
make a whole.
style, same media, same
Yeah.
tone. Yeah, and definitely has to look like the same character on every single page.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does get tedious.
It can, for me. I'm doing a lot more fabric, just because, well, the main reason is because my mother is a quilter and she likes getting the samples.
I do this for you, Mom. I do this
It's
for
all
you.
new. Yeah, they send it to her by the bolt.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
So
That's love for you.
yeah. So, but you know, it's a new thing, and so that makes it interesting. You know, you always have to find something new to keep yourself fresh. Otherwise, you just turn into an automaton. You know.
Yeah, right. Do you ever dry out, or you just never dry out? You never have an artist block?
No, I don't have artist block, but I do a lot of different things. I think if I always did the same thing, then I would dry up. And I'll have times when I just have to block out time just to experiment, maybe. Right now, I'm working on my positivity pages because with everything that's going on in the outside world, I just feel the need to put a lot of
People need to be
positivity
out
out there. So every day I'm just doing a different sketchbook page.
Oh, and I'll get up in the morning. Of course, I just mentioned I rolled out of the bed at 9, but I'm like, and there it is. And it's basically the first thing I see every day. And it's a great way to start off the day. Now, since we're talking about it, where can people find those positivity pages, or where are you posting? Is that on Instagram?
I just found out just like an hour before we called that my publisher is actually going to be publishing them, and we're going to rush to get them out exclusive to Joanne's.
Oh my gosh.
Congratulations! So I have to finish the whole book in 2 weeks, but that's okay.
But you're still taking time to do this interview, which I appreciate so much, because you must be like, oh my gosh, how far along are you? Like how much?
I'm easily gonna make it because I do one every day, and I have to have, I think, 35, and I've got 24, so you know that's fine.
And now that you have a deal going through, do you pull that from your social medias, or is it still visible there?
No, it's still going to be visible. If people want to look, I'm on Instagram as Jane Maday.
Jane
I
Maday.
have my Facebook page is Jane Maday Studio Creative Bliss.
Okay. I'm going to put all that on the screen too, so people can see where to find you.
Okay. Yeah, I'd love it if people followed me on Instagram. And yeah, I'm going to keep posting them because that builds the following that you need when you're going to put a product out.
Right.
And you know, I didn't do these with the intention of it eventually becoming a book. That's just been a happy result. I did these because it's been mental health for me that I wanted to share.
Totally. My agent called today. I had a post that went a little bit viral on a weird secondhand finds that need to be shared page on Facebook. The last check, it was like at 82,000 reactions.
Your post about your thrift store thing?
Well, do you see this baby face right here?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I cut the face off of a baby doll.
When you made the mask?
And I made it into a face mask.
I saw that.
And so I posted it just last night. I was like, oh, these guys will find it funny. And I wake up and there's like almost 70,000 reactions to it. So my agent calls. This is actually on subject, kind of. My agent calls and he's like, well, let's talk about making money. But his thought was like, I also collect these, I don't know if you can see this, but I collect these thrift store paintings and I'll paint over them. And he's like, maybe we could consider doing, maybe we can consider doing a book of, you know, those thrift store adapted paintings. Like if you have an audience that's interested in something that you're really passionate about doing and you're going to do anyway, and then it turns into something that people buy, like, that's the money. I mean, just like from an emotional standpoint, that's the money right there. So I'm so excited for you, Jane. Congratulations.
Well, I'm so excited for you too. You're doing so great.
Yeah, things are happening, and after a long time. I mean, you saw me. We met we met through licensing, right? Art licensing.
We did. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I was working at, I wasn't that far out of art school, I don't think, but I was really working at children's book, but also I really wanted to do licensing. I think for me, I was doing too many things and I was trying to do them all together. So like my children's book stuff looked too commercial, too general. And then my art, if I was pitching it to art licensing, then it would look too specific, too quirky and odd. And, you know, the thing that I learned from that after years of wasting time on what I thought I was saving time is like, know your audience and be specific to that audience instead of being like, this piece could do a zillion different things for a zillion different markets. It really can't. Like that,
Right.
that piece about brand and niche and knowing where you need to land and knowing who's going to buy that instead of trying to like, target everything. That focus. And even just recently, like, oh, my brand is kind of creepy. Even if I'm trying to be cute, it comes out a little off kilter. And once I was finally like, well, I'm actually going to do that. I'm actually just going to draw kind of creepy, cute kid stuff. That's when I got an agent. That's when I got a big book deal. That's when people were like, oh, that is weird. And that's my kind of weird. And I want that weird. So, that's something I would recommend is, to people starting out, like, know the market, know what the market wants. And it's okay to be targeting, like specific, Would you agree with that? Or do you have something to add to that?
I think you hit on the two most important things. Know your market and be yourself. Because that's it. I mean, when your heart comes out into the work, the pieces that I feel the most emotional connection to, those are the ones that sell like gangbusters. The pieces that I force myself to do just because I have to do it, they're not going to be so good.
You can't see this, but you gave me full chills. Full chills.
Yay!
That's it.
But
your soul, your
coming
out. Yeah.
Do know your audience is the most important thing with licensing, because to send a piece that doesn't fit in with a client's line is just a waste of everybody's time.
Right.
Like I have a friend who's an art director at a greeting card company, and I was talking to her, and a couple of years ago, Frida Kahlo was really big. And so she said she was getting just tons of these beautiful Frida Kahlo paintings, and she couldn't use them. I mean, how many cards with Frida Kahlo are you gonna make?
That's really super specific. Like,
so it was a waste of everybody's time.
Right.
But the other side of that story is, if you do submit a piece and get rejected, it doesn't mean that your art is crap or you're no good or you should choose a different career. Right. I mean, somebody has asked me before, do I ever get rejections? And yes, I get rejections.
Right.
I do. We all do. But it doesn't mean that the art is bad. It means that it wasn't a good fit for the client. Maybe they already had something very similar. Maybe it was the wrong time of year. Right. I mean, there's a lot of reasons. A million
reasons why you get rejected, and it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with your skill level.
It really doesn't, and it's really hard not to take it personally. But it isn't personal.
Agree. Totally. Well, and also I love what you said about rejection, to look at those no's as one more step towards the yes. For me, looking at it as a numbers game. And also if I'm lucky enough to get feedback on something, it's like, okay, that's helpful. That was, time well spent to send something out. And it only takes one yes. Like Mother Goth Rhymes got rejected over 70 times.
Yes.
It only took one yes, someone to see the potential in it, to understand what I was doing, to know that they had a market for it. It only takes one yes. So, we didn't give up on it. We kept on putting out there, and, I knew it was something good.
Well, from the moment you started that, I knew you would eventually find a home for it. I always knew that would.
Yes, you did. I remember you telling me that too.
Yeah.
You were like the most helpful, generous person I know. And that's one thing so many things I admire about you, but it's like, it is a competitive world, but we want to lift each other, we want to lift everybody else up. Try not to think of it as like a finite thing, because there's all sorts of weird ways that to make money. It's not like, this is not, a top 5 publisher in New York City. It's a weird kind of, awesome publisher that mostly does comic art anthologies. Like, there are ways of getting in the market that aren't like in your brain, the narrow, I'm
Right.
going to be in a Hallmark greeting card painter. I'm gonna work for Marvel Comics. Like, there's
Be open to the possibilities, because there are some that will really surprise you.
right. Do you have an anecdote of like something that surprised you, or a side market that you um
Golly.
I mean, that's kind of it's kind of a question out of the blue. Or do you like rely a lot on your agent to place your
Yeah, my agent does all the licensing for me, and I do the books on my own. I think the number of books that I've written has come as sort of a surprise. I didn't think that would be an avenue that I would go down.
Tell us a little more about your books.
Well, let's see, I've got one.
Ooh, yay!
Here we go. This is my most recent one. I don't know if you can see
Oh
that.
my gosh, I can see it, and it is the
Yeah.
most adorable thing ever. Oh my God, look at the, especially that little puppy.
Yeah, so I do a lot of books that are, the step-by-step how to draw kind of books. And I do a lot of coloring books. Certainly never thought I'd be a coloring book artist, but I absolutely love doing it.
Oh, that is so fun.
I'd like to be able to sell originals, but a lot of the stuff I do, you paint each piece separately, especially like if it's going to be a flag and also a horizontal rug. Well, sometimes I'll just have to paint the birds and flowers and everything, each one separately, and then combine them all together on Photoshop. If I do a regular painting, I still scan it in and bring it into Photoshop, because there's always things that need to be cleaned up or tweaked or colors adjusted. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just putting a levels layer on that. I mean, I'm telling my students all the time too, like, just your presentation, just by doing little tiny tweaks, a levels layer, or, popping up the saturation a little bit, or cleaning up this little thing. Like, I mean, your art looks so much better that way. And plus, like, I know in publishing, they like to receive digital files. Is that the same in licensing too? They like digital files?
Oh, yeah.
Another thing that my agent mentioned on the phone today. He's like, if you do sell your paintings, you better make sure you have a really beautiful, very good photo of those before they go away. And he told me about another client that he's working with that did animal paintings, but they were like in very formal, traditional outfits. I don't have an example of it, but it sounded very cool. And he's like, then we went to do a book, and she had sold all her paintings, and there was no recording of them. There was no photo. I mean, more than just like a Polaroid or something. And he's like, it's just heartbreaking, because it would have been an amazing book, but we didn't have. Yeah. So I guess the advice there is just make sure that you're taking good, recording your stuff in good, nice, high resolution, ways, because you never know what it's going to end up to be.
Well, yeah, I scan everything in really big, because like if you're going to license it for wall decor, I have some wall decor clients who want it at 1200 DPI, because, I do the painting because it's going to be humongous. Yeah, right. I do the painting at like 10 by 14, and they want it to be, 30 inches. So do keep scans of everything. And then, if the client wants it at 300 DPI, well, then you can send them a reduced file, but keep a record of everything. That's a really good scan.
Yeah, a lot easier to go smaller than it is to go larger.
Exactly. Yeah.
I've noticed in publishing that that's really come back around, that even if it is digital, they like it to look like it's, analog. It's hand painted. And I think that's the charm. I mean, there's so much charm in your work, but the charm that it is hand painted before you scan it in. You might do stuff on Photoshop, but it's watercolor, right? It
is. Yeah. And that is something that I have that makes me different, maybe from younger artists who are just coming along. My typical the typical person who's going to buy a product with my work on it is not going to be a teenager. It's going to be a middle-aged woman.
Right. Yeah. So again, knowing your market.
And I see amazing stuff coming out of Procreate right now, and I keep intending to learn Procreate because I see fantastic stuff. But I don't know if you feel this. My hands feel weird. If I go through a day and I haven't created with my hands,
like
my hands
like
feel
something
weird.
Itch, like something is
wrong.
I
know. And I do think that people respond to that. You know, especially these days, people they're drawn to the handmade right now. You have websites like Etsy and stuff like that. People are drawn to that now.
Yeah.
There again, it's knowing the market. There's a place for both kinds of things. I mean, I see digital created work that's just absolutely perfect for the product that it's on.
Right.
So if that's what you want to do, then those are the markets you need to go after.
Right.
And there's nothing right or wrong. You know, my personal preference is traditional, but I see fantastic computer generated art, and there's nothing right or wrong. There's a place for everybody in every kind of art in the world. You just have to find your place.
That's beautifully said. So maybe that's a gutsy floor cookie moment right there. I guess one other thing I wanted to ask you was about, so artists that are just starting out, at least starting out in licensing, what are like the first things they should start thinking about or developing in their portfolio? What needs to be in a licensing portfolio? Or, you know, this is too many questions, but like, what is the, you know, where can they find resources to find out what they need to know to get into art licensing?
Well, there's a very good book that was written by a friend of mine named Ronnie Walter, and it is called License to Draw.
Okay.
That's a very good resource if someone is looking for a book. There are, of course, Facebook groups. There's the Art of Licensing that Cherish runs, you know, for those kind of resources. But I think another thing that's important is you need to get out there and look at stuff. You know, go in the shops, look at the stuff. I have a little notebook in my purse, and I'll write down who the manufacturer is if it's something that I really love, and find the kind of stuff that you would be perfect for. That, you know, the kind of, this is a manufacturer, they need me. You know, and that's what you want to focus on. If you go to their website, the manufacturers will often have submission guidelines. Like for greeting cards, for example, if you go to the Leaning Tree website, they have a list of submission guidelines and the dates that all the different things are due. So you want to make sure that you do your homework beforehand, before you just dive in and start
producing a whole bunch of Frida Kahlo paintings.
Yeah. Before you start your painting, say to yourself, "What can I?" You okay?
I'm choking on.
The Girl Scout cookie's choking you.
Right.
Okay.
I got excited and swallowed part of my tongue.
You've got your typhoid Mary. You've got coronavirus.
Right. No, I got the Rona. It's
the floor cookie. The floor cookie gave you the corona.
Gave me the Rona. I'm still like, very delicious. What
were we talking about?
We were talking about, so I call that idea shopping, but like going out into the stores and finding out what's selling, what's on the shelves, who's making it, and finding where you would fit. Like, I can see my art going on a pillow next to this pillow at Target or whatever.
Right. Well, I mean, that's something that my agent will even ask me. You know, I'll be sending her sketches or ideas, and she'll remind me, now what product do you see this working for? And if you can, and if you can see it working for more than one, I mean, that is the beauty of licensing, is you can put the same painting on a mug or a pillow or a card. I mean, you can sell the same painting 10 times.
Again, so it's like one painting in multiple different outlets, reproduced multiple different times.
Right. Over
And
the
then
course of years. I have
right.
paintings that I've been licensing nonstop for like 10 years, the same painting.
Wow. So you get royalties off of that. You get a small
Yes. Yeah,
thing.
my income is from royalties. Yeah.
Got it.
It's unusual for a piece to have that kind of longevity. I mean, the one piece I'm thinking about, it's even longer than that because I did it as my reaction to 9/11.
Oh,
So
wow.
it's been selling since then, but it's because it struck an emotional chord. So much of my emotion went into that painting that it still strikes an emotional chord with people.
What was the painting of?
A puppy.
A puppy. Yeah, right?
It's a puppy waiting at the door, and he's got a patriotic bandana, and the title of it is Waiting for You. He's waiting for his family to come home.
You're going to make me cry.
Well, I know. And
you just describe it, and I have emotional response to it. So I think that says something about it.
and that's why it's had longevity, because I just had to make my emotions come out, and that's the only way I can do that is in a painting. Wow. That's the only way I can get it out of myself.
Right. So it's cathartic and healing for you, but also because it goes out to the world. I mean, it's like you're a healer. It's like you're helping other people process that, or have some comfort, or, have that kind of feeling that you gave them through your artwork.
Well, and I'm feeling that more and more, I want that to be my focus. I want my artwork to be healing. I want it to be a positive note in somebody's life. I want to help them with their self-care. My artwork can help their self-care. That's, when you're younger and you're hungry and you're driven for the money and everything, you'll do whatever it takes. Now I want my life to have more meaning than that.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel that. Yeah. Well, what you do is beautiful, and I think we covered a lot of territory. Yeah, I just want to thank you so much for meeting with me and having this interview and sharing your wealth of knowledge with our viewers. I do have a couple fun questions. I asked these of Stan, so I'll ask them of you too. So, what is your favorite color?
Well, I saw you ask that of Stan. My favorite color is probably green, but actually my favorite color is whatever one I'm using at the moment, because you pick the color to fit what you need to paint.
Right.
So, and that's always my favorite.
Right.
So my favorite color is rainbow.
If you weren't an artist, what career do you think that you would be doing instead? Was there anything else that interests you, or has it always been about art?
I've always been an artist, but I've always been very interested in the scientist. I would have been an archaeologist.
Oh, wow.
My original goal was I wanted to be the artist on a dig. And, it's good I didn't do that, because, of course, they don't have artists on digs anymore. They do it all photographically. That was my goal. I would have gone either into wildlife biology or archaeology. But then when I was in art school, I got recruited by Hallmark, and that changed that. Yeah, that changed my whole direction of what I was going to do.
And the rest is history, as they say.
The rest is history. Yeah. A lot of the art career is just having to fall into the right thing at the right time. A lot of it is luck. I will tell you that.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And also course correction. And, it bugs me when people say, like, well, just don't give up. You be persistent. But honestly, if I could have quit illustration, if I could have quit children's book, I probably would have. But since I couldn't quit it, it just naturally fell into the persistence thing. And now the persistence is paying off. Like, I have a book that went into auction with Simon Schuster. So, like,
this is so great. I'm so excited.
So it really was, that yes, luck and falling into the right places, but also that persistence piece.
Well, that is something, when I am talking to students, that's something I tell them, this is a hard career and it's a bit of a risky career, but you do it because you can't not do it.
Can't not do it. Yep. Yeah. 100%.
That you just have to make art. Otherwise, I think it would be soul destroying.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you can't not do it, then it might behoove you to look into something else. But if you can't not make art, you should be making art, and you will find a
Exactly.
way to make a living at it.
If you just have to do it, then yeah, then success will come.
Yeah,
If what comes out of your heart, it will find a home.
beautifully said. All right, so my next question is, all right, so we know that I love waffles.
Yes, we do.
Mm-hmm. And they are flaky but soft on the inside. They're well rounded. They're indecisive, and that's why we call it waffling. And so I would say a waffle is very much like my personality. If you had to describe your personality as a food, what would it be?
Good Lord. I would probably say an oatmeal chocolate chip cookie because I'm got bits of it that are good for you, but there's a little bit of sweetness inside.
I love it. And where do you stand on raisins? I just have to know.
Well, I like raisins. My kids will not eat raisins because my cousin told them that raisins are squashed flies when they were toddlers. So my kids will not eat raisins.
Thank you so much, Jane, for being with us today. This has been an amazing interview. I just learned so much, and I'm really excited for people that watch this video to learn more about art licensing and how to get into it and be just as inspired as I've been. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much, and it's done me good just to see your beautiful face.
I love you.
Hello? Hello? Yeah, now is not a good time. I'm on a business call on the other line. Can you try again another time? Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. I hope you've enjoyed this interview. If you've enjoyed this interview, then you've probably enjoyed this interview and you'd like to enjoy other interviews. So please like and subscribe for your enjoyment and also for mine. Stay weird.